In this video, I'm going to share what you can learn from one of my most embarrassing YouTube mistakes I've made yet. My name is Josh Gu, and after years of studying the clarinet with some of the best teachers from around the world, I am excited to be sharing my knowledge with you. So go to QuickStartClarinet.com or check the description on this video to see all of the wonderful resources I have to help you reach your clarinet dreams. And of course, subscribe to this channel for weekly clarinet and music tips and tricks. I like how I said yet in the beginning, like I'm going to make more embarrassing mistakes in the future. Hopefully that doesn't happen. This one was a little bit bad, but I think there's some interesting insights to point out in it, which is why I'm making this video. So a few weeks ago, maybe even a few months ago now, time is flying by, I made this video where I talked about the 7 steps to play any piece by ear. And I was pretty happy with the piece, or the video. I was playing a piece from Encanto, We Don't Talk About Bruno, and playing it by ear, and I made it really authentic where I didn't look up any sheet music. I didn't even practice it before I started filming the video. I was just going through the steps that I had planned out in real time in the video, and I think it was useful to sort of see how that was. I did put the disclaimer that I'm not very good at it, and I did make a somewhat significant mistake for sure. And the embarrassing part about it is I didn't realize I made the mistake until somebody actually told me what the right answer was. So in the comments, I got a comment of somebody saying like, how did you not even realize that you're playing this in a totally different key from like the original song? And I replied to that comment and was like, no, I'm playing the notes in the video. And when I got that comment, I double checked. Like I was like, oh no, did I really totally mess up like that? And I went back and listened to the video, listened to the original, listened to the notes that I played it with the piano. Like I really checked. And when I was doing that, checking it, and even in real time when I was first doing it, I was like, maybe it's not right. Like it didn't feel like exactly right, but it didn't feel wrong for sure. Like it was very, very close and seemed okay. But yeah, it didn't like feel just right. So like it seemed possible, but I replied and I was like, no, I played the notes in the video. Like I feel like I did it right. And then later, somebody else commented and said what my actual mistake was, which was that I started on a concert A flat rather than a concert E flat and got the wrong starting note. And of course, once you get the wrong starting note, then all the notes after that are incorrect. Just a quick tangent on that's what relative versus perfect pitch is. Very few people have perfect pitch where they can hear a note and know the name of the note. That's true perfect pitch. Most people have good relative pitch where you can hear a note and then you can sort of like search around and see what note matches that. So you're comparing notes to each other. And that's why I did do the right melody, at least I played the right notes of the melody, but because I started on the wrong note, all of the other notes were relative to that starting note and correct relative to the starting note. But since the starting note was wrong, everything was technically wrong. Now, I think is interesting, the lesson here is, especially when you're doing stuff by ear, you'll really know when it's right. Don't just settle for like, I think that sounds okay, because it definitely sounds okay. That's another interesting point about this particular instance was A flat is a perfect fourth away from E flat, so it was still a very consonant interval. Fourths are a sort of common harmonization. You can also think about it as like an upside down fifth. Fifths are an even more common harmonization, but fourths and fifths are really nice harmonies. So you want to make sure that you're really, really right, even if it feels okay. Like in this case, that perfect fourth harmonization sounded pretty good actually, and you can listen to the video, like it's really close. Maybe my A flat's a little out of tune because it's a bad note on the clarinet, but it sounded okay. It was close, but it didn't sound exactly right. And if you go back and play along starting on a concert E flat, that one feels exactly right. The notes around A flat, really bad because they're dissonant harmonizations of it. It's very clear that those are wrong. A flat sounds pretty good, but E flat really sounds right. So that's my big lesson for all of you, is that you want to make sure that you find what's really right. Another point about that is that video has over 400 views now, and only 2 people commented about it being in the wrong key. There's 11 comments, so the other comments are all people saying like, oh, this is really helpful, like, yeah. 2 people out of over 400 people that watched it either watched enough of it to see the mistake or noticed the mistake in general. And I think that's really important. The original comment was like, how could you not tell this was in a different key? Well, 400 other people also couldn't tell it was in a different key. And I think because it was close, sounded fine, was almost correct, but it just wasn't truly there. And it is really night and day. Again, if you listen to it and start on A flat versus starting on E flat, you can definitely tell that the E flat is like the right one, but A flat sounds perfectly fine. So that's the moral of the story, is really find exactly the right spot when you're learning things by ear. Also, make sure that you aren't making mistakes at any of those 7 points along the process, because if you make one little mistake, if you hear it wrong and sort of memorize how it sounds wrong, if you internalize it wrong, then that will obviously get you the wrong note later. If you get the first note wrong, then that'll make all of the notes technically wrong. So make sure that you're doing it right at every step, sort of checking in with yourself. Make sure that you're really confident that it's right. And again, looking back when I was recording that video, I was doing it in real time, so I knew that it was like, I wasn't totally convinced that it was exactly right, but it seemed close enough, so I went with it. Don't settle for close enough. I actually have a video on that as well. Don't settle for good enough, but really find exactly the sweet spot. One other little tangent that I want to throw in here too that applies, that's a good learning opportunity, is when you're learning anything, make sure that you really confidently know how it goes before you start going with it. I think that was another thing where I ran into problems here, where I felt, again, like it was close enough, so I just ran with it, and then that led to further mistakes later. Same thing when you're learning a piece of music. Make sure that you know how the rhythm goes, and you don't just start playing it. This happens all the time in my students, and even occasionally in myself and my colleagues, where you just like misread a rhythm or misread a key signature and you learn it wrong, and then it's so much harder to unlearn later. So make sure that you really know what you're doing. You're really confident that you have it right from the beginning, so that you're learning it correctly rather than learning mistakes. So I hope you learned something interesting from one of my embarrassing mistakes. Hopefully that's the worst thing that I do on YouTube. I think I'm doing pretty okay if that's the most embarrassing thing that happens to me. But we'll see in the future. Subscribe if you want to see any potential future mistakes that I make. Thanks for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in another one.